So great to see everybody here today, and I wanted to begin by firstly saying Chanukah Sameach to all of you. As you know, this is a great tradition that goes back many, many years to have the Chabad of CBD involved in being able to celebrate Chanukah together. Unfortunately, this year it's not in Parliament, but it's just down the road. But nevertheless, we are together and we are in person, which is fantastic. And particularly after the year that we've had, it is great to be able to see the smiling faces out there that are with us today to be able to celebrate Chanukah. If I could begin by firstly recognising the traditional custodians of the land in which we meet and pay my respects to those past and present. Could I, for those that don't know me, my name is David Southwick. I'm the member for Caulfield and I'll be emceeing today's events. See, I'm getting ahead of myself. Could I also begin by recognising Rabbi Herzog, who's been in charge or the head of Chabad of CBD for many years and is really the person that enables a lot of the key events during in the city to take place, including we have Sukkot and Chanukah as being two of them. And let's give Rabbi Herzog a big round of applause. And I did want to recognise Sylvia Freeman as well, that's been assisting in today's particular event. Could I recognise my parliamentary colleagues? Firstly, the Leader of the Opposition, my good friend Michael O'Brien. Josh Burns, the member for Macnamara, and welcome to you, Josh. Paul Hamer, the member for Box Hill, who'll be representing the Premier today, who's on a last-minute apology. Paul. And another good friend, we're all good friends in this room, but Rabbi Reisenberg, the Rabbi of Central Shul, and has done a lot of work, particularly in interfaith dialogue, and I wanted to recognise you, Rabbi Reisenberg, and all the other rabbis in the room. Could I also recognise Neil Angus in the front here? He's our Shadow Minister for Multicultural Affairs. Welcome to you, Neil. And I know Sam Parasol has just walked in the room, one of our councillors, and I wanted to welcome you, Sam, and I know you've also been instrumental as part of the sponsorship with Bendigo Bank in Caulfield, so thank you to you, Sam. And thank you to our other sponsors, Equity One, SoftMed and David Smorgan. Could we have a round of applause for all of our sponsors that enable this to happen? I do know that there are a number of other people and you're all friends and you're all very, very important in the room today, but I did want to recognise Glenys Lipson, the co-president of MDA, Pauline Rockman and Sue Hample, co-presidents of the Jewish Holocaust Centre, Tab and Eva Fried, which I see there as well, Graham Leonard, Leon Pitterman, so many others that are here today. Thank you for being here. And also, could I recognise Frank Greenstein, who is the new elected Vice President of the Jewish Community Council of Victoria. Congratulations, Frank, and welcome to you. So, this is Chanukah, and what a year that we have had. What a year that we've had. And Chanukah is all about the Festival of Light, miracles, and certainly looking forward and not backwards. And if you look at what the sages say, particularly when we light the Chanukiah, that there are two schools of thought, one of which you light backwards in terms of the candles, to be able to say, you know, we start with a full lit Chanukiah and we work our way back to the first candle. And of course, that is certainly how some may see things, but the convention that many of us certainly go by is you start with the first candle and you work your way through. And I think particularly this year, more than ever, is all about looking forwards. It's all about what the light at the end of the tunnel might look like for all of us. And I wanted to begin today by just thanking all of the community, our community leaders, and also recognise Josh Burns, who together, and I know we've come from different sides of the fence and in some cases have had our arguments, but during COVID, and particularly to work with Josh and to work with others, I know Paul's in the room and Neil as well, in being able to ensure that the community were able to do some of the things during the toughest periods. And I cite things like during Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur during COVID, where it was very, very difficult to have services, to even hear the shofar, and in the instance where rather than being able to go to shul, we had the shofar coming out into the community as one example of those. And we had regular Zoom sessions to ensure that that stuff happened, and I wanted to say that certainly during that it was great to be able to work from people from all sides of the fence to be able to ensure that happened. I also wanted to say that once again, thank you to you, Rabbi, for this. This is very, very important. It goes back, this service, from many, many years, and it is important for us to come together. It is important for us to be able to celebrate this important festive period. And can I say, I know it's been very tough for all of our family, but I look forward to what the year ahead brings to us. And I'm sure we will have a great year ahead. And just once again, thank you. Thank you to the community, thank you to all of you, thank you to our leaders, and thank you to our rabbis for what you've been able to do. So let's get on with the show. So I'd first like to ask Josh Burns, who will be giving us some words from the federal side of politics. Then we'll hear from Michael O'Brien, Paul Hamer, and then we'll light the menorah. So let's start with Josh Burns, everybody.
Thanks. Thank you, everyone, and CHANUKAH Sameach. I think I've just knocked the microphone. I remember David and I were having a conversation a couple of months ago, and it was just when we were in the first stage of lockdown, and we both agreed that we would try and put politics aside and we would try and work together. And I've known David for quite some time. It dates all the way back to my bar mitzvah, where we were both on stage together. But David deeply cares about the Jewish community, and he puts in a lot of effort, and I saw that firsthand. And I would just take this moment to say that we did work together, but it was really a pleasure to work with David, and he does care. And even though he's on the wrong side of politics, he does care about this Jewish community, and he puts in a lot of effort. So thanks for your kind words, David. I'll also recognise my parliamentary colleagues as well, and Michael, it's great to see you. And if those who haven't seen, Michael's wearing a kippah with a Carlton Football Club logo, which is excellent. So I wholeheartedly endorse that, mate, and it's very good that you could be here today. Thanks for being here. And Paul, of course, it's good to see you, my friend. You're on a very elevated chair. You look like you might be in charge here, but anyway, it's very good to see you, Paul. And of course, the rabbis, thank you for all of your hard work. I think this year has been so foreign because the Jewish community is one that comes together. We come together at shul, we come together for Shabbos, we come together for our families, and this year we haven't been able to. And it doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel normal, and it's something that doesn't feel like the hundreds and hundreds of years of tradition that makes our Jewish community so wonderful. And it's tough, and I know that a lot of people have felt isolated, and a lot of people haven't felt like they've been able to express themselves and have the vibrancy and the experience of all of the wonderful things of our Jewish community. And then to be able to be in this position where really all Victorians, I think, can be very proud of themselves, and not everything's gone right, obviously, this year, but we are in a position now where we can come together, and that's something that a lot of the world would be praying for, and a lot of the world would be desperate for right now. So to be here right now with you, and to be here with my parliamentary colleagues and Rabbi Herzog and everyone who put this together, it is a relief, to be honest. It feels normal, it feels right, and it feels like what it should be. And I hope that next year we don't have a disruption. I hope that next year we have only a healthy and happy year, and that we are able to get through this pretty dark chapter and come out of it stronger and better for it. And I wish everyone a good Yontif, happy Hanukkah, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josh. So the next speaker is Michael O'Brien, Leader of the Opposition, a good friend who we earlier this year had intended to go to Israel, Michael's first trip, and as all trips were cancelled, unfortunately that was delayed, but I know he's desperately looking forward to get there. He's a great friend of the community. I think certainly as it goes back in early days, in his student days, he was one of the early first Irish Orges, members of Orges. So he certainly has the Jewish community in his heart. And could you please welcome the Leader of the Opposition, Michael O'Brien.
Thank you, David. To our Rabbi Herzog from the Chabad of Melbourne, to Rabbi Reisenberg from Central Shul, to my parliamentary friends and colleagues, to David Southwick, who just does such a great job for the community, to Josh Burns, to Paul Hamer and to Neil Angus. It's great to be able to leave politics at the door and come together. And that's what we have to do as elected leaders, but it's what we need to do as a community. It's what we need to do as Melburnians, as Victorians and as Australians. I'm very honoured to be invited to here with you today to wish you very, very well for Hanukkah. Hanukkah it's the pillar of lights. It is the light at the end of the tunnel, and what a year where we need something to look forward to. And when I think of the Jewish community in this state, I think of resilience, I think of faith, I think of dedication and overcoming odds. Because the story of the Jewish community in Victoria is the story of the Jewish people in many ways. And the work that's gone into this year to getting the community through this year has just been amazing. And it's been so impressive. It really has. And I've had meetings with the Rabbinical Council of Victoria and with other Jewish community groups, and there's just that determination to see this through, and that strength is so important. And David mentioned the blowing of the shofar through the streets where you couldn't actually meet together in a synagogue. The shofar was coming to the streets to bring the faith to the people, and to me that just summed up how dedicated the Jewish community was to ensuring that you endured what has been such a difficult year for so many people. But we look ahead. We look ahead, and I'm the last person to be telling this gathering about what the menorah represents. But we think about the fact that there was such a little amount of fuel, and the miracle that occurred to allow it to keep burning, and that just shows we just have to hang on. Because if we hang on and we stick together as a community, we will endure, and we will see better days ahead. And that is what we look forward to in 2021. We have endured, we've come through, and we look forward to a much better, stronger and prosperous 2021. So on behalf of Victorian Liberal Party, and I'm sure all of your political leaders, I wish you a very happy Hanukkah, Hanukkah Sameach.
Thank you very much, Michael. It's my now great pleasure to introduce Paul Hamer. Paul, the member for Box Hill, is also the co-convener with myself in the Parliamentary Friends of Israel. And you've probably heard me say this a few times, that the Parliamentary Friends of Israel is the most active friendship group that we have in the Victorian Parliament. We have probably the biggest number in terms of MPs that are actually part of the friendship group. We do lots of different activities, lots of people that come from Israel. We have talk to us, and also the trips to Israel where MPs go. That kind of all stems through the parliamentary group. So it's been really good working with Paul as co-convener of that group, and it's my now great pleasure to ask Paul to come and address us on behalf of the Premier.
Thanks very much, David. And just I suppose to start with, on the Parliamentary Friends of Israel, from what I've been able to observe, it's the most bipartisan group of parliamentary Israel Friends group that you have across the country. There isn't a difference between the government and the opposition in terms of their support for Israel, which is, I think, a real credit to everybody who is in the Parliament. Look, I'd like to just start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land and pay my respect to their elders past and present. And of course, I'm here not just representing myself today, but representing the government and the Premier, who sends his apologies. Can I also acknowledge my parliamentary colleagues, Josh Burns, obviously a seat from the federal member of McNamara, and my state colleagues, Leader of the Opposition Michael O'Brien, to you, David Southwick, and Shadow Multicultural Spokesman Neil Angus. To Rabbi Herzog and Rabbi Reisenberg, thank you to you for organising today's event. As has been said, I mean, this has been a really challenging year for the community. It wasn't just, and we think back, it wasn't just on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and not being able to go to shul and meet with family, but even as far back as Pesach and having the Seder and being at home. But it's been mentioned a few times about resilience, and I think the community has really responded brilliantly, not just in terms of the family gatherings and working out how we could adjust that. And for example, at my own synagogue, we organised Kol Nidre in advance, so there was a sort of a pre-Kol Nidre service that we could do over Zoom, and there was a lot of communities and a lot of congregations that did the same thing. But particularly I wanted to pay tribute, and I know Rabbi Herzog was very involved, but a lot of members of the community chipped in and helped out to help others who were in need, who were isolated, who needed some assistance, who needed, if it was food or a phone call or anything that needed assistance. And I think it just showed how strong this community is, that there were services set up and websites and Facebook pages to really connect in. And I also want to pay tribute to Josh and David, who did a huge amount of work in this space, and also in terms of assisting with the and discussing with the Rabbinical Council to, as I said, provide the shofar service, for example, on Rosh Hashanah, to come out to people's homes.
Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvoso v'tzivonu lahadlik ner Chanukah. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam she'osa nisim laviseinu bayomim ohem bizman hazeh.
Please join us, everyone.
Haneus halolo. Haneus halolo she'anu malikim.
Please be seated.
She'anu malikim al hanisim ve'al hanifloes ve'al hateshuos ve'al hankomos she'osiso lavoseinu she'osiso lavoseinu Miami Mahem Miami Mahem Miami Mahem Bazman hazeh Ma'os tzur Yeshuati L'chana el Shabeach Tikon beis tefilati B'sham toda nezabeach Le'tachin radeach Mitzad hamnabeach Le'azimon b'shir mizmor Chanukah hamizbeach Azimon b'shir mizmor Chanukah hamizbeach Join us! כל העולם כולו גשת צמאות, גשת צמאות, גשת צמאות, כל העולם כולו גשת צמאות, גשת צמאות. אוי והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד, לא לפחד לחר, והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד, not everyone together, והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד, not to fear at all, and the main thing to recall is not to fear at all. גשת צמאות, גשת צמאות, גשת צמאות, כל העולם כולו, גשת צמאות, גשת צמאות, פעם פעם פעם, והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד, לא לפחד לחר, והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד.
It's now my great pleasure to ask Rabbi Reisenberg to come to the lectern and to provide some concluding remarks. Rabbi Reisenberg.
Freilich and Chanukah, everybody. Those of us who have forgotten, we're actually in the Melbourne CBD at the moment, still here. To my rabbinic colleague, Rabbi Chaim Herzog of Chabad of the Melbourne CBD, great thanks to you for providing this opportunity for those residents here of Melbourne, to my dear friend and David Southwick, our local member. Acknowledge also Paul Hamer, Michael O'Brien and Josh Burns and Neil Angus. Welcome. You know, when it comes to Jewish holidays, there's an adage, they tried to kill us, we won, so let's eat. And nothing can be further than the truth of actually Chanukah, where a small band of Jews stood up under Yehuda the Maccabee to the Syrian Greek army at that time in the year 150 before the Common Era, and won. A small band of fighters stood up against the mightiest army of the world. We won. Part of the celebration and miracle was that one jar of oil that they utilised to kindle the candelabra lasted 8 days. So how do we celebrate? We eat. What do we eat? Donuts. And if one would go to the many Jewish bakeries there in St Kilda and Caulfield, my goodness, those windows are full. Every type of conceivable donuts is there. But it's just more than that. You see, the bakers are smart. Normally at this time I'm actually in New York visiting children. And what I found out over there was that the donuts are not only in the baker's window cases for 8 days, they get smart. Donuts are good. Who doesn't like donuts? Delicious. Let's start celebrating a bit earlier. And every time I come to New York, it's like 3 days before, 5 days. The last time I was there was 14 days before Chanukah. Donuts everywhere. My daughter in New York, Rachel, we were chatting just a few weeks ago, and she says, Dad, unbelievable. The bakers are now celebrating donuts 21 days before. And I said, Rachel, you don't know what you're talking about. Here in Victoria, we're now celebrating, I think, more than 50 donut days. Anybody has not seen The Queen's Gambit here? Netflix? We've all seen it. It's an amazing story. It's a winning program for Netflix, and the reason why it's popular, because it emphasises the underdog, how an underdog wins. I mean, the story's familiar. Those of us have seen this. A young girl, Beth Harmon, orphaned at an age of 9 years old. She's forced there into an orphanage. She has incredible trauma from the loss of parents. And begins taking some tranquilizing drugs there already in the orphanage. There in the basement, an unlikely friendship develops between her and the caretaker, Mr. Scheibel, who's a chess buff, and he actually takes this young girl under his wing and begins to teach her chess. She's a chess prodigy. He develops her talent, and she begins to play. She begins to play local tournaments. A turn of good fortune happens that a lovely couple, the Wheatleys, actually adopt her. And her adoptive mother takes a very keen interest in her chess prowess and continues her budding career there with chess tournaments. Unfortunately, the Wheatleys split up, and young Beth is traumatised by the fact that she may have to go back into the orphanage, but her adoptive mother takes her under the wing and becomes her manager. And she progresses in winning chess tournaments that are dominated by men at that particular time in the 50s. State, national, world competitions she's playing and winning. But all the while, battling her inner demons with drugs and alcohol. The pinnacle comes when she's there and wins against one of the top masters of the world and becomes a chess grand master. It's a story that resonates with us all. A triumph over will, over inner demons, a triumph of hope over despair and gloom, a triumph of light over darkness. It's something we can all celebrate. And I think that is the essence of Chanukah. And it's interesting, the rabbis do not focus on the military victory that was there. I mean, there's no such thing as celebrating a victory in war. There are casualties on both sides, and that victory was short-lived. But what we can celebrate is light, a small jar of oil that lasts not 1 day, 8 days. That's something that we can all celebrate. It is a universal message, but I think it resonates for us here in Victoria because we've lived through a period where our freedoms have been restricted, and it has not been easy. It has not been easy, and it's been for all the right reasons. But what kept us going? Hope. Hope. There are better days to come. We will be well. Our communities will be well. We will be strong, and that is what happened as we come out of our darkness into light. Thank God. It's over 50 donut days, and this is something we must celebrate. And we must also acknowledge that we are blessed that we are living in such a country as Australia that is also an underdog. We're down under. But when it comes to our response to COVID, we have got one of the gold standards in the world, the lowest per capita death rates, the lowest COVID incidence, and that is something we must acknowledge and celebrate as Australians. So happy Chanukah. And please eat those donuts.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Reisenberg. I was waiting for someone to give a donut analogy with the donut days, and you've been able to do that. And also give the spoiler on the chess movie, which I know Michael O'Brien hadn't seen and was going to do that over the summer period. So that's okay, we've got through all of that. But albeit that we've now come to the conclusion of today's formal events, but the other miracle of Chanukah that we haven't spoken about, we spoke about the oil and we spoke about the significance of that oil, that we now eat donuts and latkes. I'm told that you can eat this stuff and not put on any weight, so there's the other miracle of Chanukah. Give that a try, see if it works. Donuts and latkes and everything else will be served. Thank you very much for attending today. Chanukah Sameach to all of you and your family.
Shalom Aleichem, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem.
הכל רק מחייך ויש פחות טובים שלא הכל הולך רע אם נאמין נראה את כל הטוב ואז נשאיר חזק בכל קדוש אז תשירו אז תריעו שירו לא שיר חדש היטיבו נגים בתרועה אז תשירו אז תריעו שירו לא שיר חדש היטיבו נגים בתרועה for the King of all kings. From the bottom of your heart, at the top of your lungs, שירו לו שיר חדש, a brand new song. שירו לו שיר חדש,